we are constantly processing very quickly all the possibilities for any particular problem. And for some reason, technology stops that. We just think it's too much because it used to be very complicated. In truth, it was very complicated, and it can feel like a foreign language, but really it's just, you just get like two steps in and you realize you don't have to know every single piece of that application. You need to know three or four key things from that application, and that's going to be enough for people to actually think you're amazing.
Hello, fellow administrators. It's time to get connected to Administrator Nation podcast. I am your host, Josh Madera, and today we're going to talk about becoming a tech-savvy administrator. For that, we brought a special guest. She has over 10 years of experience as an admin across the globe, having worked in the US, UK, and as a virtual admin for companies in Australia and Thailand. Back in 2016, she was named one of Office Ninja All-Stars, an award given to top-performing admins. She loves bringing communities together to create a platform of shared knowledge, making each member of that community stronger and more informed. And that is one of the reasons why she started The Officials. Welcome to the show, Lauren Bradley.
Hi, thanks.
How are you today, Lauren?
I'm okay. So even though I'm American, I'm also now British and I live in London. So it's nighttime here, but it feels like with the time change, it gets dark so early. So it feels like it's been night forever here. But I'm really good. Thank you.
That's that, and I'm happy that you mentioned that, because you have a super interesting story, and it's connected to your passion. Is connected to your dream. Can you tell us a little bit about how you started The Officials and kind of give us some background on that?
Sure. So I met my husband on MySpace. That's really where it starts. And I was in Pennsylvania. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, and I have a master's degree in interactive media. So I was basically taught the Adobe suite, and I was teaching at the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, which is the flagship school I was teaching the Art Institute online, but all the Art Institute of Detroit, Art Institute of Orlando, all of those, the flagship school is in Pittsburgh, and I was teaching there, and I randomly met this guy, and next thing I know, a year and a half later, I'm married. I'm living in London. I hadn't even have a passport, and my resume, or they call it a CV, was not translating very well here. And I started to temp because I'd never not worked since I was a waitress at Denny's, basically, when I was 15. And so I started temping just to make some money, and I absolutely fell in love with the ability to so quickly change people's lives and get such a positive response from it, and know that it was the community aspect of it in the office that really was attractive to me. I worked mostly with IT companies in the beginning, and I decided to switch my whole career around and really pursue this. It was the best decision ever. And then we moved to New York for a few years, and I suddenly lost all of my contacts because I'm in a new city. I had this most amazing job, and I just needed to speak with other admins. Now, this was before Facebook groups were really a thing, right, or communities were really a thing. And I was desperate to talk to other people. So I went on a website, and I created a Facebook group. I made these little postcards that had the link on it. And I was on the 12th floor of a building, the top loft floor of a building in New York. And I hit every button on the elevator, and I handed that postcard to every receptionist on that floor. And then I started inviting people on LinkedIn that worked for amazing companies in New York, and I just needed to talk to them. I had no point of reference for places to send my executive, housekeeping companies, IT companies. We were relocating, we needed to run wiring, everything like that. And it started as a community. And then I just happened to have the most eclectic experience. I come from an instructor background already. And and I was the person obviously observing everything the longest, the most invested. And so people started coming to me for mentorship, unsolicited. I was not thinking this was something I was going to do. And then I think like 20 people asked me in 1 month, and I thought, okay, the universe is telling me something. And I of
Yes.
course love to help people and instruct. And so that then I evolved, and I thought, oh my God, I love this, but I need to help more people. I need to help more admins and assistants who are so siloed in our jobs. And I thought, okay, I'll digitize this and I'll start to record it. And now it's very popular
Yes.
because COVID happening, all these companies that were doing live trainings, and I still do live trainings, but they were all of a sudden seeking me out to help them with their platforms because they needed an online platform. So I was way ahead of the game on that. But that's the evolution of how we got here and how my life kind of turned around from one song I heard on MySpace and how it ended up getting me here and creating this whole amazing company, basically.
Lauren, and then it's amazing how all the work you put in when you were in New York creating that community, and then you go to London, and then you start to create it over there, and then you kind of put everything together, and it's just this huge community now.
Yeah, I'd started my career in London, then we moved to New York, and then we moved back, and that's when everything started to change because I had a very good community in New York, and I started a London one. Then I became a private PA to high net worth individuals, and I started a private one. And then I thought, this is crazy. I can't be in all these groups. And I could think of more. And I could really see the power of having regional groups, of not just being able to ask in a large group, oh, where are my people from Sri Lanka? Where are my people in Dubai? To say, that's why we moved it to Slack. So there were channels for everyone. We moved our community from Facebook to Slack so that there were channels for different areas. So I could have those local conversations, but it was me trying to expand it. I could see the potential, and I had to iterate a few times. We had to figure out, and I was never afraid to do that. It was always an experiment. I was testing, watching, and so now we think we've come up with a pretty great platform for them.
So, Lauren, when I first met you, I really got excited about one of the strong areas that you talk about, which is technology and all the experience you have in that area connected to the administrator, to the manager. And like we were talking about what would be a good episode we can go over. And then we decided, you know what, how to become a tech savvy administrator. What do you think is some of the risk that administrators nowadays, maybe they've been doing this for 10, 15, 20, 30 years, 40 years, you know, and they're still kind of like not feeling that technology. What are some of the risks that you see for administrators who are not going in that direction?
So this is something I'm coming up against a lot lately. And I've been doing a lot of, they call resumes CVs here. I've been doing a lot of CV reviews here and resume reviews back in to our members in America. And you can see the ones who have been out of work for a while, ones that maybe took administrators who took a leave of, thought they were going to take a break, and then COVID happened. And now they're really panicking. Like life
Yes.
has really changed, and they're realizing that in a remote world, they left a physical office and now they're trying to find a job in a remote office, and they are scared. They are genuinely fearful that they don't know enough. The stress and anxiety they have is feels insurmountable to them. I've been in conversations where they were just crying because they're so worried. Like, how did I get so useless so fast? It's like conversations that we're genuinely having. And while I feel for them, I know that what they fear is really not true. One of my private clients right now is going to be turning 80 this year. She has every Mac product you can possibly imagine. Her and I work remotely. She lives in another country and I live here, and we do everything online together. All the files that we transfer, we work with 1Password apps just because I can instantly change it and update her password and she gets it where she is. I'm like, if she can be tech savvy, anyone can be tech savvy. And I want to dispel those fears. I want to demystify tech for them because it is becoming more intuitive. And it is not like it used to be in the 80s and the 90s, which is you would go and have to be certified in Microsoft. You would have to go and learn all the nuances of these feature-rich programs. And now what happens is you have a marketplace. You can make your own tech stack out of different software. You can have G Suite, or which is now what, Google Workspace, and then you can have Slack, and you can have Trello or Asana, and then your own team could be using Atlassian products, your software engineering team. You can build this stack how you want agnostically, and it's more intuitive, it's more built so when you go in, it's not as feature rich, but it has what you need. And it's simplified. It's actually simplified. It's meant to work the way you work. It should be making your life easier. And so I do tech series and I do these short talks with them just to introduce them and show them what's possible. And it starts to break down that wall of fear that they've built. It's like, imagine them like in a prison where they built this wall that's really not there. That's built with these heavy, invisible cinder blocks that they've built for
Yes.
themselves, and it's really not there. They just need someone to show them that is not
Lauren,
there.
so what do you think would be a good first step? Like, where do they start to become tech savvy as an administrator? What should be the first things they should be looking into?
Well, I'm someone, so I think any good admin or assistant is a creative problem solver. To me, like that's what I am. I'm a professional problem solver. That's what I do. I can't help myself, even when whether people want me to help solve their problems or not, unsolicited advice, it's
Yes.
coming, right? And so because I can't stop myself. I can't walk by a puzzle and see like you see three or four pieces sitting there. You can't not go over and try and put them right. Or I can easily be distracted from a project I'm working on when I see someone struggling and need help. I want to dive in. And so when I see this problem, and I want admins and assistants to lean back on their creative problem solving skills, that we are constantly processing very quickly all the possibilities for any particular problem. And for some reason, technology stops that. We just think it's too much because it used to be very complicated. In truth, it was very complicated, and it can feel like a foreign language, but really it's just, you just get like two steps in and you realize you don't have to know every single piece of that application. You need to know three or four key things from that application, and that's going to be enough for people to actually think you're amazing because they
Yes.
don't really know how to use it. They know how to do a couple of things, and so what you need to do is, I'm scrappy. I mean, I'm a bootstrapper. I'm a there's always a way type of person. And so the first thing I think is, okay, someone else must be able to do this. I'm not the only one. Someone figured this out. I never think I've invented anything. Sometimes I do, and I always find out I'm wrong. And I think, I'm shaking my head because I'm thinking of all the times I've come up with like amazing phrases for trainings and stuff, and then I Google it and I'm like, darn it, it already exists. But I say, go online. University of Google. If an assistant doesn't know how to use Google, then I mean, that's the basis. If you know how to use Google, then you have all the access to all the tech that you want. There is so much training online, just even on YouTube. And that's why I'm so passionate about bringing administrators affordable training. Because for the first 8 years of my career, I was the only assistant. I had no funding and no training budget. And training that was 500, 800, $2,000 for like a 2-day weekend, it may as well been a million. There was no way I was going to be able
Right.
to afford that. So I wanted to come up with a platform that offered affordable training. Do you think I know how to record myself? I do now. I own a microphone that I'm sitting in front of. I didn't know how to, I actually, because where I went to school, I knew a bit about editing software with Adobe Pro, but I just use iMovie, so it comes free on your Mac. Um, but I knew what was possible. In fact, most of the stuff, sorry, I just hit my table. Most of the stuff I know, I learned from like teenagers on YouTube that are YouTube stars that know how to do transitions and things in movies. And I just Googled it. And then I
Yes.
figured if someone else knows, I can figure this out. I have enough backbone. I have enough self-regard that I know if if the money was on the line, if I needed to know how to do this to keep my job, to keep food on the table, I could figure it out. And that's kind of the mind game I play with myself. And I hope that other admins and assistants do. But there's something about tech that gives them so much anxiety that it stops them from leaning back on what they know best, which is problem solving and breaking it down one step at a time. Okay, what do I need to do? How do I use Asana? How do I use Google? Google Docs, Google Drive. How do I send a video how do I send a file that's too big? My email that's more than 10 or like 10 gigs or whatever it is on the email. And just honestly Google it. And then the more you want to know about a particular subject, you will find the experts that you trust, the authoritative figures that you believe in, and you'll dive into them. And that's how we get a lot of our followers, is because we give tips and tricks all the time. They like my style. They like the other advocates that I team up with, that I believe in, that believe in my mission, and they know they're going to get good content. So they come to me once they've decided, once they've gone on their own and said, okay, I want to deep dive. I want to learn more. And at that point, they're ready to go further. And that's what I suggest, is to lean on that problem solving ability that you've always had and find a way. Google it.
You know what, Lauren, you just mentioned, so I love what you just mentioned, and let me put a note here really quick on tips. When you mentioned tips, so one of them is obviously getting out of the comfort zone, right? They've been doing it a certain way for so long, so they're kind of in this comfort zone, and at the same time, they have already their habits. They already have their way of doing things, and breaking through those habits can be complicated. Now, when you talk about tips, I want to add that I was looking over your videos that you have on YouTube for the officials, and I've been super excited for the past week. I've been using one of the tips that you provided on YouTube, and I can tell you that
Tell me what it is.
I've become a lot better at follow-ups. I'm
Did you watch my follow-up Friday?
You know what? Let me see. Where's my phone? So you had the phone, and then you're like, just say like, Siri, schedule a meeting with Lauren at 2 p.m.
Okay. I set up your meeting with Urban Lorena Ortiz for today.
It doesn't always get it right, but if I was in your phone, it would know me.
I have a Lauren on my contact, so probably I need to be a
It's
little
just
bit more
picking that up,
specific, right? But I loved it because I'll like, schedule a meeting at this time, do this, follow up. And it's so simple. Even if I'm driving, even if I'm eating, whatever I'm doing, I'm not procrastinating anymore on, I'll do this later on, or when I get to the office, or when I'm finished talking with this person, I'm going to do this. I'll just do it at the spot, set a reminder.
That makes me so happy.
And I love it. I've enjoyed it. So, it's been really helpful. Just that one simple tip that you gave has helped me a lot on the follow-up, which is so important in this career.
And there's always follow-up. Just how complicated things are. And if you are a business savvy person and you're trying to build true relationships with people, and that you're trying to not necessarily that you have an agenda, but you're trying to build a real authentic relationship with someone, but ultimately you're trying to help each other. And there's just always going to be follow-up. There's always going to need to be checking in, making sure that you're providing them the service that they need, even if they're not your customer yet, that you're finding out what their needs are and you're connecting them with people, because that will come back to you. Because I'm writing a course for, I've been commissioned to write a course, and the subject I just was writing about was emotional intelligence and soft skills. And if you look at the top 5 soft skills that are needed, I think in LinkedIn's latest survey, it was like creativity, adaptability, emotional intelligence, which is being self-aware and being able to read other people. But you can tell from the list of soft skills that are needed, persuasion over manipulation.
Lauren, and I'm gonna invite you to not go in too deep, because I think that would be a great episode.
Well, we can talk about that, but
yes, we're gonna have to do an episode just about that. I think that's a super important subject.
Yeah. So, but I think what it comes down to is really all those different soft skills are leading to the fact that it's a different marketplace. It's a different workplace these days, and you have to continue to build these relationships. And something as simple as having Siri remind you to follow up on something, especially when we're just
And
absolutely flooded with information.
but
Like a cave person wouldn't get this much information in their lifetime as we get in a
yes.
week, in a
But
day,
you
I
you know
think.
what, Lauren? I don't consider myself to be bad with technology. It's just that it's that little simple. Like I hadn't like, it didn't cross my mind that I can just go ahead and do this, and it wasn't difficult. It's just that I was not exposed to that yet, and
It
and
is. It's
that
what you
brings
need
me
to
to
know.
yes, you okay.
You need
This brings me
exposure. You
to
need exposure to different experiences to see how other people work. And we're not getting enough of a over the shoulder view. And that's what I love. I like practical tips. Like you can talk to me about theory all day. Like hit me real quick with the theory. I'm clever enough to get it. Then tell me, okay, how does this make my life easier now? Like that's what I'm really passionate about helping
yes.
people with. Yeah.
Lauren, when we talked about how to become one, and then we went over, Google, and it's right there in search it. I think one of the challenges is, okay, I know how to use Google, but I don't know what to search for. Like I don't know what are those things and what are those tools that I should be searching for. So that
Yeah,
brings me
you're
to
right.
the next. That brings me to the next question. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, Josh, Lauren, I'm good. Yes, I can do Google, but what should I be looking for? What tools, what applications should I have on my list of things that I want to integrate into my box of tools as an administrator? So, what are some good options out there?
Okay. So, one, I think you're kind of, before I address that, I think you're kind of hitting on the fact that there is a gap. So it's like, okay, you've just built this bridge for me that I should have seen was there, right? I should have, it's so simple. Why did I get people saying that all the time? I get after webinars, I see like the mind blown emojis and say, people say mind blown. And they're like, and then going, it's so simple. It's so simple. And it all comes from the fact that I tell myself anything is possible and that I didn't invent it. So I always think whenever I've now trained my brain that when I'm like, oh, I just wish I could do this, that it exists. And that's the one step where I feel like I do more than a lot of other people I meet is to say, it does exist and I can find it. It's super, there's an app for everything, right? So I have a
Yes.
whole bunch of apps that I absolutely adore and a tech stack that I like. I really do like Microsoft. I think it's really interesting that everyone's like, what's Teams? Teams is amazing. And all the world has suddenly jumped onto Teams.
Yes.
And I'm an old school Slack fan because that's been around since 2014, 15. And to explain to people that's what Teams is essentially trying to be. And it's fine. We love Teams. I want everyone to be able to work in whatever program. I see why IT companies like it, especially for security reasons.
Yes.
But I've worked in both. I worked for a company that was a Citrix remote desktop reseller, and I was the head of marketing there, working with VMware, Citrix. So these are all people that allow you to log into a desktop. If anyone's watching and saying, what is she talking about? Allow you to log into your computer, which is in a server somewhere, basically, just another
Yes.
computer. And you can log in anywhere, online access to your files, but you actually see a desktop. You actually can log in and see it. And I used to do marketing for them. So I have quite a bit of exposure to IT and software engineers, and I would go to them. I don't know why more assistants, like the assistants and admins and software engineers should be like this, in my opinion. They should be talking all the time and they have the best ideas, or they can show you how to use the technology that you need to use. I remember I used to have a help desk behind me. I would just swivel my chair and be like, okay, I have an Excel and I'm not sure how to word this in Google. I'm trying to figure it out. Can you just help me? And they taught me how to do amazing stuff I didn't know was possible, creating programs in Excel that I didn't know was possible. So leverage the people around you as well as Google. Find the experts that you trust and ask them questions. But the software that I really like, and the reason why I like Slack and Google is because I worked for a startup. It was a tech company that made it. It was bought by Warner Brothers, and it was sort of like it was a streaming media company, and it was called Drama Fever, and they were incredible. And we had a sort of agnostic stack. We had Google Workspace, we had Slack, and I had never worked on a Mac. Well, no, I hadn't worked on a Mac since high school, since iMacs, those big colorful iMacs. I hadn't, and I thought, oh my God, this is going to be such a change. And I feel a lot of assistants are really pigeonholed into Microsoft. And if they leave a job after 10 years and they find a job at a startup, then they are really worried that they're going to have to switch up all their technology. It can be done. It's okay. But I really started to fall in love with things like Slack for communication, all the integrations that come into it. Google Workspace, formerly Google G Suite. I love 1Password for tracking my executives, my own families, my multiple clients, passwords and important information. I like it over LastPass. A lot of people use LastPass. It's okay, but I like 1Password, and most of the high net worth individuals I work with. I now love Macs over anything else. In fact, I just got a new computer after my refurbished Mac that I bought 7 years ago was just getting a little bit slow. And my husband wants to sell it, and I'm so attached to it. Like I built my business on it. I'm afraid to give it up. I also am a big fan of Trello and Asana, which are task management software applications. So if your to-do list is getting longer than the book that you have there on your desk, so longer than an A5 size notebook, and you keep moving it forward, and the longer you stay at a job, you get these back burner tasks that you're like, I don't need to do it now, but it's like a pipe dream sort of thing, or it's 6 months time. Where do you keep that? Where do you remember what that is? And I really love these software applications. To me, it's like Notebook, Trello, Asana. There's also ones like Notion, which is really cool. I mean, I've got on my Chrome here, I've got oh my God, there's probably at least 95 different softwares that I haven't tried out yet. And my assistant's always laughing at me saying, what have you signed us up for now? Because she gets the main inbox where I always use that email just sent for. There's like, what is this now? Because I love trying new things and seeing how they're answering problems and making my life easier. I'm the lazy assistant. I want to get stuff done as quickly as possible. And that's why I think my brain goes to different places. Like I never remember when people stop me on the way to the kitchen to remind me to do something or to set up this meeting. And so my brain goes to, how do I make it easier? Oh, I'll tell Siri will remind me. And so I use things like my iPhone incessantly. And then social media. I think people don't know enough about social media for their own businesses, and things like Pinterest and SEO. I think there's so much to be learned there for administrators that they're just not getting enough information about.
You know, one of the apps that I found to be really helpful is Scanner, and I've been using Scanner, and I'll get something signed, I'll get a doc, I'll get a contract, whatever. I'll just from the phone take a picture, it scans, and it gives me the option to just send that email to whoever has, and I can forget about that. Like I can throw it away. I can do whatever I want. It's not on my table anymore. I moved it on, and it's made it a lot easier. You know, it's made it a lot easier to just boom, 30 seconds, 1 minute, you're done with that process that maybe you would put that file someplace and then you would forget to go follow up with that department, or you'll lose it. Sometimes you'll even like, oh, where is it? I completely forgot where I left it. And now with this type of tools, you can just, it's done in 2-3 minutes.
Exactly. I like one called Tiny Scanner. And then also I think people don't know enough about their own native software. So just if you take a picture with your iPhone, let's say, you can go to print, and then when you see the image, when you hit print, if you go like this and expand on it, it then makes it bigger, and it's actually you hit that little like send button after that, and it will turn it into a PDF and send it however you want. And you can paste those pictures into notes and it will make a PDF for you. There's also a signature section in Photos, so someone can take a picture of a document. You can go in to markup on your iPhone Photos, hit signature, have your saved signature in there, and sign documents from there. Like I'm teaching clients and executives all this all the time to be able to say, you can be much more agile. I've been on the phone with the CTO of Deutsche Bank while picking up my old CEO's heels while racing to get something else for her done. And if I'm not able to use, that's why I like G Suite so much, because even though Microsoft has this technology, people still send physical files. I need to be able to use digital files that are collaborative files and Microsoft can do it. The problem is people just don't respond the same way. They'll send it back to me. They'll download it and send it back to me. I'm like, no, just type into the document. I've sent it to you on OneDrive. Just type into it. I need that. I need that sort of lifestyle to be able to get things done faster. And that's one thing that there's a woman named Michelle Bowditch in Australia. She's a brilliant advocate, and she does a tech audit with assistants. She'll sit down with them and just go through their native software now and say, did you know this is sitting in there? We had someone in the officials the other day say, we need to schedule a bunch of appointments for interviews. And HR have asked me how to help with this. And so she asked for suggestions. People were saying Calendly,
Yes.
I think, Acuity software, all this Acuity scheduling, Doodle. And I said, well, what application? I was the only one that said, what application are you using? Microsoft, Google, she used Microsoft. I said, there is intuitive schedulers within Microsoft. I sent her 2 links to what's built into Microsoft and one you can download extra. And she said, oh my God, this has just saved us so much time and money. This has been revolutionary. We've already had our first candidate come back and say, this is the easiest scheduling process they have ever had. And from her affordable membership to us and me being accessible in our community and her asking the right question, but not knowing that it was going to be about her own software, not saying, maybe I actually have this technology. And I find when I do these tech sessions, I give them possibilities, and then they go and look in their own software and realize, oh, I don't need to go to Google. I have this in Microsoft. I don't need to go to Trello. I have, what is it called? Azure for software engineers inside Microsoft that I can change up and use myself. So I think looking into your own native applications that you already have in your workspace is going to be a major eye opener. Forget about all the new stuff. Just figure out how to actually use what you have.
Yes.
And it's going to blow your mind.
You know what? I think, Lauren, one of the challenges that managers, that administrators have is they're used to always helping other people. That's what that's what you do, right?
Guilty.
You mentioned it earlier, you're looking for problems and you're looking to help. And that's kind of your day, is like you're helping this department and this person and your boss, and over here, you're always helping. And I think sometimes we forget to ask for help. And
delegate, for sure.
So for those managers, those administrators that are thinking, you know what, maybe I do need help, like finding out what I have, what I should add. So can you tell us a little bit more about everything that you guys do with the officials and all the things that you help out other administrators and managers? Just go over that a little bit, if that's okay with you, Lauren.
One of the big issues that we have in our industry is gaps in our knowledge. We don't have formal training. We just don't anymore. There's business administration degrees, but they're not the same. They're more like working in a hospital. What a lot of us in the industry have done, fallen into it, like I did. My resume didn't translate, so I started temping, and it just we learn as we go. We're the person that everyone can go to solve their problem. So as you said, we're so busy looking into helping others that we put ourselves on the back burner. And it's funny how we don't see ourselves in the same way that we see others. Like, I'm constantly trying to tell admins and assistants to schedule everything they have to do. Their to-do list should be full. Like they're not their to-do list. Their to-do list is definitely going to be full, but their schedule should be full. Because then if someone asks you, can you work on something? We have massive amounts of guilt. We overcommit and we say we can do things. We can't even remember what we did that day because we're so busy responding. We feel like we got nothing done. And when it comes down time for performance reviews, we can't actually articulate the value we brought to the company because they're so busy reacting. And so just trying to say, listen, you do this for your executive. Your executive lives by their calendar because you tell them to do that, and yet you can't do it for yourself. So you really hit the nail on the head that this is a problem that we have. Also, they're very siloed. Many of us work alone. Even in big companies, sometimes I think now we're seeing a trend of more administrative pools for things like some of the big companies. It's they're downsizing and they're bringing in the assistants and admins into a pool that they're all answering questions from executives, and they all kind of work together. And there is this, even when you're working with others, there's also not competition, but you're supposed to be the person. I hope to God there's no competition. I know that there is, but it shouldn't be there. But that you're supposed to be the person that everyone goes to figure stuff out. You're supposed to have all the answers. So how could you ask for help? How could
Yes.
you possibly ask for help? If you can't figure out how to get the training you need, why are you coming to me asking for it? You always figure it out. Why would I give you $1,000 for this training
Right.
when you'll figure it out? That's what you do. And we just pile more
Yes.
stuff on you and you just get it taken care of. So what we do, and what I'm really, really passionate about, is empowering admins and assistants. And I do that through community courses and coaching. I say coaching because I like alliteration, but I think it's more mentorship. I like being really accessible, and like all of my mentees that I've had are basically with me for life, because I'm committed to seeing our entire industry rise together. And so all of us have the same questions, but like you might have the best. I've learned stuff every single day, and I have over 15 years experience, truly eclectic experience. I've been a temp, an office manager. I'm now a private PA in high net worth individual households. I manage several estates. Like, I am in a different world from where I started, and I learn something new every single day, and I get lit up inside to share that with everyone. There's so many issues that plague so many in our industry. And so I just felt like I needed to pull them together, and I wanted to help them. I wanted to help me. That's what I wanted to help. Who was I? And so I started a affordable online training platform. And as I said, I know about tech, but I didn't know how to build a website. I didn't know how to record all these things. And I learned it. And I take all of that and I teach assistants. So we talk about time management. Everything is really easily digestible, fun, interesting, with practical tips like the Siri tip, things like that are actually going to give you what you need and see real impact in your job tomorrow. And that's why assistants come to us and like kind of what we provide, I guess.
Yes, and you know what? It's simple. You have the experience, and you have the empathy with it. So
so much
when
empathy.
when you when you
It
when you put those two things together, obviously then you put all this experience that you have, and then the empathy where you understand the position, you understand the budget they have, you understand the challenges they've. So when you put that together, you get the officials, which I think is great.
Thank you. It's a real passion. It came from a passion project because I really do just want us all to rise up together. And that's why I love talking to you. That first conversation that we had, I could just feel the heart that you have for what you do. And that's why I was like, let's do it. Let's just talk about whatever. It'll be great.
And before we go, where can people find you?
So you can find us at jointheofficials.com. We're also really active on Instagram at jointheofficials.
Great. Well, so here's some of the ideas before we go. How to create a rock star resume for administrators is one. Top soft skills. I think that's something that we're gonna have to talk about because that helps you. I was reading about that the other day. And that was some of the advice when you really want to grow your career, right? When you want to grow your career, it's the base pretty much has to do with those soft skills that a lot of the times we forget.
And when people think it's intuitive, they feel like, oh, well, you're born with it or you're not. If I'm
Right.
not great in this area, how do I learn? And you can. If I wasn't taught to be a creative problem solver, how can I learn that skill? And you can. So there's lots of tips and tricks there.
Great. Well, Lauren, thank you once again. And to our listeners, if you're still not a part of Administrator Nation community, please go to administratornation.com and click on Join Community. It's completely free. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and follow us on our social media platforms. That is it for today's episode. I am Josh Madera, and remember, technology is best when it brings people together.